All right, good morning, folks. This is Tim Ealer. Today is Sunday, the 19th of October, 2025. And we're still talking about the tropics here, as well as severe weather that came through this area yesterday. This trough is swinging through this way, and it could bring some severe weather to the Gulf Coast here, that general area. You can see the water vapor loop showing. Enhanced moisture and convection along the Gulf Coast up into southern Alabama, southwest Georgia. And we have in the tropics, we have AL 98L invest out here. Um, Models have been flip flopping about this developing, but I think as of right now, they seem to be indicating it will develop somewhere in this area, right? But after that, still a lot of disagreement what's going to happen, and we could be dealing with this for the next week or more, probably 10 to 15 days, potentially, depending on what happens. So, uh, switching to the infrared loop, convection ongoing with this system out here in the tropics, and you can see mostly low top convection up in here. Of course, heavy rainfall, but the most activity is right along the Gulf Coast here. This system is forecast to swing through and take on a negative tilt. It may bring severe weather up in this area later today. Uh, so I hope my brother up there is listening to this today. Maybe he can get an idea um, what it has in store. But I think overnight tonight, potential is higher up here. Deep trough off the east coast of the U.S. You can see the dry air in here. Go back to the water vapor loop. See what I'm talking about here? Lots of dry air there. Um, Overall, a lot of troughiness along the east coast, and that's been the theme this year, really, for the east coast and the eastern U.S. At least for this fall, anyway. Um, as far as the tropical, excuse me, outlook. Here's the latest outlook from National Hurricane Center. Even though it's not a named storm or disturbance or have a low level center, it's still producing 30 to 35 per hour winds as it passes through the um, Western Greater Antilles here. Um, Western Antilles, Windward Leeward Islands here, okay? And then moves into the Central Caribbean. And part of the reason I think it's not developing, you see the forward motion is 20 to 25 miles an hour, and that's not very favorable for a closed low to develop. And also, there's some wind shear over top of it. So, but compared to yesterday, now it's up to 50% chance of development. And once it slows down, I think it has a lot better chance of developing somewhere in this area. So, um, switching to the ensemble guidance here. I'm going to start this off 5 days from now. This is the Google DeepMind um, machine learning model. Quite a bit of split between the two, between this model. Ultimately, I think it depends on where it forms, how strong it is. Um, but it's like almost all the members. I don't know how many members there are in this, but I have to research that. But it's almost like it's totally split in half, and it's been waffling back and forth with this. So anybody in the Caribbean Sea needs to be on watch for this. Haiti, Cuba, Jamaica, Bahamas. Even on the along the east coast of the U.S., we need to be mindful of this. If it does go up to the north here and get larger, as some models think it will, impacts could be high along the coast with rip currents, high surf once again. So, but this is 5 days from now, right? Okay, so we're gonna go to the other Google DeepMind GenCast AI model. This one has a little bit different take on what's going to happen here. Some bring it close to Florida, and one wants to hook it in back into the U.S. here, which I think is unlikely. But as you can see, they're all over the place, and there's not a lot of skill this far out anyway. But that's literally 12 days from now. So once we get into the 7-day range, and we get a low develop, then we can start really looking at the hurricane models and really fine tuning where we think this is going to go. GFS, I think it seems to want to have like two different systems here, right? You have AL 98L here. It looks like another spurious low off there, and this model run isn't complete yet. Let's go back to the 0Z. So a lot of uncertainty here, getting 9 days out. So, and I show you this just to show you the inherent uncertainty, and we have ensembles you know, disagreeing this much. All bets are off at this point. And European ensemble has some of these members, and it has a lot of members here. I can't count them all, but it's one to keep it further to the south here. And what's interesting, if I look at this is the 00Z. If I look at the operational run, it's pretty crazy about what it wants to do, and I'll show you that in a minute. So we'll start off with the GFS. Puts it generally 98L, generally right over Haiti, Dominican Republic, 7 days from now. Is a relatively strong. It actually wants to really deepen it right off the coast there. Come over Haiti. This is not a forecast. I think Mitch West says the same thing. It's not a forecast, folks. It's just showing the realm of possibilities. Okay. GFS has been pretty consistent in showing this going out to sea and just kind of hanging out there, and then eventually being picked up. Okay. But gets quite large over the open Atlantic. Just as a representation of the shear wind speeds, aloft. This is the GFS, what it thinks the wind speeds are going to be. This is starting today. The greens and blues and oranges are higher wind speeds aloft. See, the only really lower wind speeds is in the Caribbean Sea and then the South Gulf, and maybe here in the main development region, but still a lot of westerly flow here. And so maybe an anticyclone gets a little bit developed over this, and you get some divergence aloft, some enhancement by the upper level westerlies, and that's all she wrote. Deep trough forecast to develop off the east coast again. So it's the time of year, folks. We're going to have runs coming through more frequently. All right. So here's the euro, and this is the interesting scenario I was talking about today. There's a very strong, relatively strong hurricane here, really deepening it. Goes over Cuba, takes it to the north, and gets caught up in the other low here. Another forecast, guys. Swings it right into the continental U.S. Does it remind you of something like kind of what happened with Sandy, right? But I think this is unlikely to happen. Requires a lot of things to come into play this far out. November 1st, hard to tell. So a lot of room for change right now. So moving on to the Euro AI. The Euro AI has been consistent with a weaker system. And from my understanding about this, it tends to downplay tropical cyclone development. So it's showing a low developing here. They're pretty consistent. So this tells me I feel like we do have a good chance of something developing here. What does the Canadian model show? The 29th of October, it has a low right here in the southwestern Caribbean Sea hanging out there, which is, I think, the reason why this one doesn't really move to the north is because it's weaker for a longer period here. Okay, so it doesn't feel the upper level flow. Oops, my bad. Icon, tropical Atlantic. All right, let's see. Here's the icon 06Z run. 98L down here in the Caribbean Sea. Hanging out. Just stays there. Pretty weak. So got a whole range of possibilities here. You know, just want to put it all out there. My take again is the ensembles tell the story, right? Lots of uncertainty, especially at past 7 days. So we got time to keep an eye on it. People in the Caribbean, anywhere in there, should be aware this is coming, and they should already be prepared for this stuff. But can't hurt to check all your stuff, make sure you're all set for this potential event anywhere in the Caribbean. So, um, moving on to the continental U.S. Let's go to the satellite again, right? We have the trough, like I said, and we talked about the water vapor in the ongoing convection here, and this is the ongoing convection here, right? And you have some pretty intense line here trying to push to the south, but it looks like it's losing its steam here as it outraces the general flow here, right? And this line is kind of picking up along the Gulf Coast. You can see where the most convection is ongoing. Shower than storms all the way up into the Great Lakes and on the backside here, and some stuff coming on. Rainfall coming in the northwest. Um, let's switch back to the upper level water vapor loop real quick. Again, yeah. So anyway, that's that. Um, what are the current hazards? There's no. Make sure there's no. Refresh this. We have red flag warning up here in the northern tier. Wow, the northeast. Coastal flood warning. Interesting. In the Virginia area. freeze warnings. Looks like freeze warnings for a good portion of the east of the Rockies here, Colorado, northern high plains. Um, Looks like a high wind warning or wind advisory. Interesting. Up here into the Ohio Valley. Mostly high wind warnings and maybe high wind watches in the northwest, and looks like some winter weather advisories as well. So, um, so I'm going to talk about the potential severe weather next for today and show you the national radar. Have a little discussion about all that, and then we're going to discuss the future temps for the next couple weeks, as well as precip chances. Um, I'll show you a future national radar for the next couple days and go over the temps. Stay tuned. So here's the national radar from the WeatherWise app. Zoom out a little bit, excuse me. There's some snow ongoing up here in the northern northwest U.S. As well as in the upper Midwest here, and on the back side of this low. Looks like moving through here. Ongoing convection here. Moving into North Georgia already, into southeast Alabama. Quickly moving to the east today. Excuse me. I'm sorry, guys. So what's the severe weather outlook? We have a categorical marginal risk here in the southern tier of the U.S., the southeast, along the Florida Gulf Coast, into Alabama, parts of southwest Georgia, and in a large area here in the mid-Atlantic into the northeast. Tornado risk. We have a tornado risk here along the Gulf Coast, marginal 2%, and along mid-Atlantic coast, New Jersey, Connecticut, parts of New York City, Maryland, Delaware. All right. Excuse me. Jeez. Wind risk. The wind risk is saying a low wind risk along the Gulf Coast, as well as mid-Atlantic in that large area where this outlook is mostly driven by, and hail, not showing any hail risk today, given the saturated moisture profiles here, right? Day 2, categorical risk. No severe weather expected, general thunderstorms. Day 3, same thing. So what does the excessive rainfall outlook look like? Went to day 1, day 2. Not showing any risk today. No data. Interesting. That's probably not right, but that's what this shows. Moving up into the northeast here, I have a small risk in Vermont, Maine, parts of New York, Massachusetts. Kind of interesting. Must be in the mountains or something where that is. Oh, day 3, no excessive rainfall expected. Same thing with day 4. Day 5, as the system moves, looks like it drops down here to the central U.S. We have a marginal risk of excessive rainfall and along the northwest coast. So quickly going over the severe weather threat today. We have our this is a 500 millibar mid-level flow analysis, right? You can see the deep trough moving through the flow here, and the jet streak on the backside. And this is what, as this developed, it helped promote severe weather yesterday. Going through time here, you see it takes on a negative tilt as it approaches the northeast here. So the severe weather threat along the Gulf Coast is more um, this morning, right, as this moves through. And then later on today, as this belt of strong flow moves through, you see what's going on here. When you have that negative tilt, and you can almost make out a little dip right there. Um, kind of like that, moving through the flow. Definitely some ingredients here for severe weather. Instability be quite limited, meaning the moisture, but it looks like that when I look at the surface low, the surface dew points, they definitely advect northward into this area overnight. So we'll keep an eye on that. This is the 700 millibar, which is a little bit lower in the atmosphere. Kind of the same look here, just trough moving through, lifts off to the north and takes on a negative tilt. You see the increased flow here. It's pretty impressive right there. So um, this is a representation of what ensemble max reflectivity looks like 4 hours, every 4 hours. Um, and it has to meet certain values to be portrayed on here. You can see where the highest values are. Um, Probabilities have to be greater than 40% of having a most unstable Cape value of greater than 50 joules per kilogram, which isn't that high, but that's what this parameter uses. It just gives you a general idea of where storms will come through. You can see here in central Georgia, it's kind of a split between the numbers here, right? And you see what happens here, 90%. So definitely, and along the Gulf Coast as well. So um, gives you a general idea where the storms will be coming through. Okay, pretty nice tool to have here, and it moves offshore. Okay, so let's look at the surface representation here with the dew points. I want to show you this surface low moving through the flow here, developing right, moves to the north. You see the moisture is pretty rich here uh, into the southeast. Quite dry in most of the rest of the nation, but you see the dew points being pulled northward here. 60, 50, 60, 70-degree dew points moving further north. And overnight, this is when they peak, right? You see right there. So some overnight, it's definitely going to get kind of dicey there. Front's going to move through, and it takes on negative tilt. Definitely going to have to keep an eye on that. You can see the lower pressures too here. 1,004 millibars. So got some changing direction with height as well. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. Uh, so we're ramping down from yesterday's event and not downplaying today's event, but not nearly as potent until maybe tonight. over the northeast. We'll just have to see. So, what are the future? Let's see. What are the future temps going to look like the next 2 weeks or so? Right, right. Temps and precip. These are 6 to 10 day temperature probability outlook. On the East Coast, maybe equal chances of being cooler, warmer than normal. Central U.S., especially the northern tier, warmer than normal, and then the West Coast, likely cooler than normal. Precip chances, the highest along the northwest, and then to the West Coast, really. And moving down the flow, looks like we have a general flow going this way here. So, um, what's probably happening is there's a ridge going to be in place, and you got to flow over it like that. So, moving on to the 8 to 14 day, warm temperatures move to the east further, and you have cooler temps in the northwest still, and still enhanced precipitation chances higher than normal. And thankfully, we got some higher precip chances um, in a good portion of the country, really, except for the south here, the southwest, and Texas. So that's good news. Maybe it'll help break the drought a little bit here. Um, Last thing I'm going to go over is the temperatures in the next 7 days. I'll do that next. Daily maximum temps and minimum temps review here. So a good portion of the nation for today in the 70s and 60s and 70s for highs. Some 50s up here in the north, and of course in the Intermountain West, cooler temps tonight in the 50s along the East Coast. Interesting that oh, this is ending today at 8 a.m. I'm sorry. This ends at 8 p.m. today. This ended this morning, so that's why the warmer temps are in this area. That's my bad. So yeah. Um, Day two, hot down here in Texas, right? And the rest of the nation, 70s, 60s, some 40s up here. Cooling off quite a bit here for most of the nation, except for um, the plains into the deep south in Texas. Definitely nice and cool here in Ohio Valley and into the northeast and in the northern tier and the Mountain West. This is high temps for Tuesday. 70s, 80s, and 60s and 40s for most of the nation here. Some 90s still hanging out here along the warmer temps hanging out along the Gulf Coast and then Florida. And Wednesday morning, expect temps in the 30s and 20s up here in the northern tier. And still nice and cool, except along the Gulf Coast, really. For Wednesday night, warming up. Well, not Wednesday night, ending Wednesday at 8 p.m. Uh, Highs in the 50s for the northern tier of the U.S., 70s and 80s for the southern tier. Minimum temps for Thursday, 8. Warming up a little bit here in the northern tier, but 44 for central Georgia. Nice. Freezing for a good portion of the northern tier of the U.S. here. So Thursday and max temps warming up a little bit through the nation again into Texas. It's hot once again into parts of Florida. Quite cool overnight. Ending Friday at 8 a.m. Very, very cold here. I mean, for us in Georgia, it is cold, but up there, I'm sure it's not. Day 6 max temps ending the 24th, Friday. Not bad. 90s in Texas. That's really the only place forecast to be 90 or above in deep South Texas here. So not even desert Southwest. Minimum temps warming up a little bit the next day, but still very nice for the most part. And day 7, I don't see any temps on the map that are reaching 90s, so that's pretty nice. So that's all I got for today, guys. Stay safe out there. I'll see y'all tomorrow.